Until the age of 40, a person analyzes life. After 40, they truly begin to live. Carl Jung would write this in his later essay, The Stages of Life. But at that moment, he didn't know it yet. Sigmund Freud stood in front of him, sweating and trying to loosen his tie, shouting, "What you're doing is a betrayal of science." Welcome to Selected Ambient Rumors. We tell stories about our idols. In the endless loop of repetitive content on YouTube, we're trying something different. So, if you subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. The year is 1912. The place, Munich. 37-year-old Carl Jung is in the dim, smoke-filled conference room of Munich's Park Hotel at a psychoanalysis meeting organized by his mentor Freud, who had once called him his heir. But this meeting would mark a turning point for him. Jung had long been thinking differently from Freud. To summarize, Freud said, all human behavior is rooted in sexuality. Jung said, yes, sexuality is important, but there's more to it. Freud claimed, all our psychological problems come from sexuality. Jung disagreed with this as well. Okay, sexuality is part of it, but there's also our search for meaning, spiritual imbalance, and more, he argued. Freud said, our dreams are expressions of repressed sexual desires. Every dream hides a sexual wish. Jung would later respond, no. Dreams are symbols from the collective unconscious. The concept of the collective unconscious is a bit complex, but in simple terms, the collective unconscious is a shared memory in all human minds filled with ancient stories, symbols, and fears. Jung had already started writing about these ideas back then, but he had never said them to Freud's face. He was about to confront him for the first time at the Munich meeting. This was a huge career risk for him. He could have spent his life proudly calling himself Freud's heir. He was already a rising star in psychoanalysis. He was making good money. But breaking from Freud meant trying to introduce something new in a world obsessed with Freud. If his ideas weren't accepted, he could end up as a nobody. Yet he couldn't suppress his desire to follow his own path. You've probably experienced this too. That's why he decided to share all his thoughts with Freud at this meeting. His goal was to create a space for debate and discuss the truth on a scientific basis. But that's not how it went. The moment Jung first said, "This is how I see sexuality," everyone in the room exchanged glances. The 15 people who attended the meeting that day, as you can guess, idolized Freud. His word was like revelation to them. They were waiting for Freud's response. But Freud sat there in silence. His face had taken on a stern expression. Jung continued. He listed, one by one, things he believed couldn't be explained solely by sexuality, and offered his own answers. Freud's anger was growing. People in the room began to whisper. With every sentence Jung spoke, the tension rose. Comments like, "This is outrageous," began circulating. Freud held back and held back, but when Jung finally said, "Sexuality alone is not enough to explain human psychology," he jumped to his feet. "What you're doing is a betrayal of science. Everything you're saying is nonsense," he shouted. He was struggling to breathe. He was sweating. He unbuttoned his shirt collar. He loosened his tie. Pointing at Jung with one hand, panting, he shouted, "Shame on you!" When suddenly, he collapsed into his chair and fainted. Jung's eyes widened like full moons. He was terrified. Yes, Sigmund was a passionate man. He threw himself into debates and defended his views like a boxer. Jung had expected him to argue back fiercely. But fainting? Wasn't that a bit too much? Everyone in the room rushed toward Freud. They lifted him from the chair and laid him on a couch. They opened his collar completely. Someone took charge and checked his pulse. Meanwhile, 2 or 3 of them started verbally attacking Jung. "You traitor! What right do you have to cause this with your nonsense ideas?" they yelled. Jung didn't respond. He slowly approached the crowd gathered around Freud. Freud was regaining consciousness. His eyes opened slightly. He looked around, dazed. Trying to figure out why people were hovering over him, he suddenly locked eyes with Jung and remembered everything. The moment he saw Jung's face, He frowned again and sat up in anger. He shouted in Jung's face, You want to destroy me?" The others immediately tried to calm him down. "Calm down, sir. Please rest," they said as they laid him back down. One of them turned to Jung and said, "Don't push this any further, just leave." The man was right. Jung slowly left the room, but one thing stuck with him. Freud's last words. "You want to destroy me?" Maybe this was a twist of fate, but he could explain both that sentence and what happened when he stood up to Freud through one of Freud's own theories. According to Freud's theory of the Oedipus complex, every male child subconsciously wants to challenge the authority of the father figure. It's a desire to overthrow authority and assert one's own identity. Maybe Jung had truly wanted to destroy Freud, who was a father figure to him, and Freud had reacted to this son threat by fainting from the intense stress. That's why Jung had felt a strange sense of relief while Freud lay unconscious, as if he were finally free. As a person's ideas and soul matured, they had to destroy their biggest idol, like a final boss, as we'd say today. And maybe only then could they truly be free, finding themselves and truly beginning to live. When Jung came down for breakfast in the morning, everyone from the meeting was there. No one even greeted him. They ignored him and silently helped themselves at the buffet. He tried to spot Freud in the crowd and finally saw him. Freud gave him a cold nod and continued getting his food. They exchanged a few letters afterward, but their relationship was completely broken. After this incident, Carl Jung isolated himself from all social settings and focused on his inner journey. From that difficult path, he emerged in his 40s, having developed his own school of thought. He wrote, "The first half of life is devoted to building the ego, the second half to letting it go," and turned toward his work and creativity. This focus made Jung the founder of analytical psychology. With concepts like the collective unconscious, archetypes, and individuation, he revolutionized modern psychology. He earned more respect than all of Freud's followers put together. Freud was a father, an idol, a hero to him. But today, Carl Jung's videos get more views on TikTok,